Hello and welcome back to That Light Novel channel. I'm That Light Novel Guy, and today we're going to talk about a series that just makes me smile, makes me incredibly happy. That is Once Upon a Witch's Death, the tale of the 1000 Tears of Joy. Now, this is technically a light novel, but it's also a bit more of a novel-y kind of one, because, that's right, hardback cover, you know what that means, something extra special, and this one, that's right, is something extra special. But before we get into that, if you love light novels and want to see more light novel content, leave a like, consider subscribing. There's plenty more on the channel, including so many different series such as Playing Deaf Games to Put Food on the Table and many other popular titles. So Once Upon a Witch's Death is another, that's right, another title that was sent to me via Yen Press for a fair and honest review, and I'm gonna give this one a fair and honest review, and well, let's cut things a little bit short and say this one is worth your time. If you want something, well, heartwarming, I'm gonna call it. Now, this is about a young witch called Meg, who one day her teacher tells her she has 1 year left to live. That's right, one single year left to live. Bit of a harsh thing to tell her, but there is some somewhat good news. There may be a counter to this. Meg has been cursed, and the way to lift the curse is to get 1000 tears of joy, pure tears of joy in a little vial. And of course, how's she going to do that? Being kind and excellent to each other. That's right, this is one of those series which it's a bit of a slice of life kind of one. It's a bit of a fantasy one, taking place in a very fantasy version of England, and that's going to be brought up in a few minutes because yeah, they take some choice things with this being in England, but it's what you expect. Meg goes around, helps the person of the day, they get happy, and so on. Now, I hesitated with this one a little bit because I thought it was going to be a very much a sucker punch. I know some people don't like that, but rest assured, it's got a few things. It tangles with death, it tangles with romance and stuff like that, but there's nothing too kind of morbidly upsetting. There might be a little bit of a twist at the end which might shock a few people, but if I'm perfectly honest, I kind of saw it coming, so not so much. So this takes place in a town in England, and you know what, I'm gonna rip it open because I come from England, and yeah, it's your very typical idyllic view of England. You know, fresh bread in the bakery, not at Greggs. They don't have Greggs in here. And you know, oh, everybody's smiling and waving, oh hello, posh and what have you, the village doctor kind of thing. Even though this is a town actually where the town is actually bigger than where I live, and I'm kind of just like, yeah, it's a town that's bigger where I live, but it's treated as kind of like a very, very small town. I think the author definitely didn't really kind of get the whole grasp of what a small town in England actually is. But yeah, it's one of those ones where everybody knows each other, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not England at all. It's the idyllic view of England. That's fine, I'm fine with that. My issue comes with, I'm sorry, the translation, because, well, this has been translated into American English. That's right, so we have a lot of Americanisms for English things. We don't call crisps chips, which makes it confusing when one of the characters goes, do you want some chips, and puts them into the character's hands. You won't do that. You won't do that with normal chips. You'd go to the fish and chip shop and walk down the street eating fish and chips. Or you just might eat chips, fair enough. You don't really get chips in a kind of packet and eat them like you would crisps. The other one was railroad. Nobody in England calls it a railroad. It's the railway station, or the tracks, or the railway line. It's one of those things that just kind of pulled me out of it. By all means, localise for Americans. That's your big target audience. But don't have English people talking like Americans in an English setting. It doesn't work. It pulls it right out. And that's the biggest issue with it. So rant over, what are the characters like? Well, Meg is your traditional sweetheart character. She is a good egg. She sometimes uses that magic for mischief and pranks, or makes things easier for herself. But on the whole, she is genuinely a good person, and over the course of this title, she genuinely helps out a lot of people. She helps out a young girl get over the death of her mother. She helps people get together, that kind of thing. Now, it doesn't quite go from extreme to extreme. It's one of those ones where I'm like, oh, a thousand tears of joy. It's going to start running out and start repeating things. But you know what? It kind of felt fresh. Now, as of recording this, there is the one volume out in English, and when I did Google it, it looks like there is a second volume. This one doesn't say volume 1, but there is a second volume out there, so that will come eventually. But if I'm perfectly honest, this is one where I just enjoyed reading it. It doesn't have an end. It's got a little bit of a twist at the end, which I'm going to be honest, you can kind of see coming. But it's a kind of twist where it kind of says, oh, well, you know, if there's no further content in here, you can kind of take that twist and use it as a bit of an ending point. And I quite like that. I quite like that thing where there's kind of like, oh, you know what, we might not get a second volume, but yeah, this is kind of like resolve things in some kind of aspect. Because let's face it, she's either going to fail, not going to happen in a good book, she's going to become legendary, which is going to be the thing, and she's going to get the cure or whatever, you know what I mean. So this is literally a title about a good person doing good things for other people. I'm going to honestly liken it to another witchy title, Wandering Witch, except in this one the main character isn't a flawed character. She's a good egg. That's what a good egg. And she's just genuinely helping people out because she's a good person. Whereas Wandering Witch, Elena wasn't that good of a person at times. She is quite flawed, but she will do the good thing in the end. It's, you know what I'm kind of seeing. But yeah, if you want a bunch of short stories about a witch doing nice things for other people to put a smile on their face and probably your face, do check this one out. It comes highly recommended from me. It's not going to break any of, like, it's not going to be your favourite title, but you're going to have a smile on your face and a good time with it, and sometimes that's all you want.